Welcome to Beams TV. I'm Quincy Augustine, and this is Beams Bites. Today, I'll be biting into seabirds, but not literally though. So what are seabirds? Seabirds are birds that are adapted to life within the marine environment, and they're often considered to be the ATV of the animal kingdom, possessing unique abilities to swim, dive, fly, and live on both land and sea. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada are composed of the Grenadines transboundary. There's an organization called the Environmental Protection in the Caribbean, and they're currently conducting a study within those two countries. And they found out that our islands are home to approximately 16 different species of seabirds, with over 60,000 breeding pairs across 74 sites on both islands. And remember, those islands, they have a chain of smaller islands around them that make up the Grenadines, basically, right? So each of those small islands, there are actually three sites within those two countries that are of global importance and 18 that are of regional importance. So those islands are really important towards the seabirds. So seabirds, they come in all different shapes and sizes, and they possess unique appearance that aid to their survival. For example, we have the brown pelican. The brown pelican, as you can see on the image there, it has a throat sac, and that throat sac is used to attract a mate during the mating season, and it is used as a short-term collection for food and water. Most seabirds, they have flexible web feet that enable them to swim at fast speeds. And seabirds, they also drink salt water. And they do this by removing salt out of the blood because the kidneys are not well adapted to be removing a lot of salt water. So the salt glands will create a salty solution which discharge out nostrils along the beak. These are bird species. They have waterproof feathers, and those that dive underwater have particularly dense feathers. Now, with those dense feathers, it basically stops water from penetrating through the feathers directly to the bird's body. There are also seabird species that are long-lived. For example, wisdom, which is a wild female liaison albatross. She is considered to be the oldest wild bird in the world, as well as the oldest banded bird in the world. And she is around 70 years old, which is very old. They also nest in huge colonies. For example, those from the Newlands, the Murres, and the Kittiwakes. And they're also most birds, they have one chick per year. All right. Now, there are some species that travel for long distances. For example, the Arctic tern. Tracking studies have found that these birds make annual journeys of about 40 to 44,000 miles, which is quite a distance. And also, there are some seabird species that mate for life. Okay. Seabirds, they also aid in the circulation of nutrients between land and sea, while sharing those habitats with other wildlife, such as other terrestrial birds. We have the wetland birds, shorebirds, and also reptiles as well. And seabird also help our fishermen find fish. So the fishermen will claim that once they see a flock of seabirds out in the ocean, then they believe that it's a sign or indication that there's some sort of school of fish around that area. All right. The fishermen will also use the seabirds to help them understand the weather patterns, right? And they also use them for navigation in case they're basically lost at sea. All right. Now, one of the biggest troubles, I should say, seabirds are facing a lot of trouble at the moment, right? And there is approximately 70,000 of seabirds worldwide that have been lost since 1950, right? And we're now constantly seeing that trend, it's happening, and we're seeing so many threats, right? And here's a list of some of those threats that we constantly see happening. It's not just here in the Grenadines, but, other islands, the coastal areas, right? We see the hunting and harvesting of seabird eggs and their chicks. We see plastic pollution, other marine debris, invasive species, fisheries bycatch. Some seabirds get caught, in the lobster traps. There's also contaminants. So we see a lot of that happening right now with the oil spills, storms. It's another one, predation. So they're constantly being stressed out and placed under a lot of pressure due to those stress. Hence the reason why there's such a drastic decline in their population right now. And there's also conservation barriers that we're experiencing at the moment. There is protected legislations. Sometimes the laws of the land of some of those countries are very weak, right? In terms of protecting the land, right? Some of the islands themselves are not under, or I would say not protected, right? So there are some islands that are under marine protected areas. There are some islands that are actually privately owned, all right? Inaccessibility, right? That's another big issue that we're having as conservationists, getting access to those lands to conduct those. Okay, so we've been constantly faced with some of those conservation barriers in proper conservation projects for seabirds. But there's a few quick tips that you can do to help, right? One of those, I think it's quite familiar right now. Please do not litter. Don't be throwing away your plastic bottles, your garbage bottle, whatever it is, your trash, put it away in a nice enclosed bin, right? Don't put plastics anywhere out within the rivers and beaches. Do not hunt seabirds, the chicks and the eggs, right? Do not burn seabird nests or the nesting islands, right? Don't be, I know some farmers, they would like to perform some of those planting methods called burn, so these are some of the things that we need to be mindful of. Also, please help share this information, right? Either your nieces, your cousins, your aunties, your uncles, mom, dad, share those information with them. You can do that over a little cook-up, your home, bubble a little pot, have that little conversation with them, raising that awareness of how important birds are to our marine ecosystem. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Here's my website. Here's the organization that I work for, Epic Islands. You can follow them on Instagram. You could also look at their website as well. And thank you for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe to Black in Marine Science. You can visit the YouTube page, the Instagram page, and also the website on Twitter. Shoot them an email if you have any questions.